Thanks for joining us for this audio description, which is designed to be enjoyed by all. One of our research questions is whether audio description has benefits for sighted people in addition to blind and partially sighted people for whom this practice was developed. Thank you for helping with this research by completing the short survey when you've finished. I'm Carly Allen, and over the next 15 minutes you'll hear me leading you through a sequenced description of the image on your screen. The image shows a version of the Minoan snake goddess. The original snake goddess, as she's known, is an ancient Minoan figurine from the Greek island of Crete and dates from around 1600 BCE. The snake goddess, the larger of a pair of figurines, has received a lot of attention since its discovery in 1903. Its fragmented origins, reconstruction, and multiple copies and reinterpretations are all part of its story. The object on your screen is part of that story. It's a modern replica made soon after 1903, and it's in the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, UK. So what are we really looking at? While we're describing this object, it's helpful to keep in mind these many lenses of reconstruction. The replica that is in front of us, and the original it refers to, which is itself a reconstruction of fragments, pieced together by an archaeologist who wanted us to understand it in a certain way. We'll start this description with some headline information. Then we'll move through the description in 3 parts. First, focusing on shape, then material, and finally colour. So, to start with the headlines. This is a small figurine, modelled in 3 dimensions. It depicts a standing woman who is resplendently dressed. Her long skirt reaches the ground and forms a stable base where it rests on a flat surface. This is a moulded replica made of plaster with a painted surface. It is the same size as the original snake goddess which it copies, and could be held comfortably in the hands. It measures 34 centimetres in height and is 12 centimetres across at the base, its widest width. So in inches it stands just over a foot high, with a maximum width of 4.5 inches. At the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford, this 20th century object is usually displayed alongside antiquities from Minoan Crete. This replica has a special place in the history of the Ashmolean Museum, as it is connected with a former keeper of the museum, the archaeologist Sir Arthur Evans. It was Evans who discovered the Minoan snake goddess on Crete, oversaw its reconstruction, and commissioned this plaster copy. The artist who made it was Halvor Bagge, who was working closely with Evans at Knossos. We will move now into a detailed description. Firstly, how is the snake goddess shaped? Disregarding the arms for a moment, the overall shape of the standing figure is a narrow, tapered cone resting upright on its wider end. Starting from the very top and moving down, the first quarter of the height is a tall cylindrical hat with a flattened top like a chimney. It is upright, yet very slightly tilted to the right. In the next quarter we find the head, the exposed bust, and pinched-in waist. And from this midpoint down to the base is the long, stiff-looking skirt, as if it has been heavily starched. The skirt is without folds and resembles a slender cowbell. It is wider when seen from the front and narrower from the side, because the skirt is oval in cross-section. The upper body is dressed in a very tight-fitting shirt with short sleeves. The neckline is open and tied in laces under the full breasts, which are visible. The waist is pulled in tightly, giving her an hourglass shape. Although it's from an entirely different time and culture, the silhouette of the dress from the front is reminiscent of corseted fashions of the late 19th century in Paris, which might be familiar from paintings by Renoir or Whistler. To describe the position of the arms, you're invited to take up the pose in your own body, or to imagine doing so. I'll lead you through this now. So, standing tall with a straight back and long neck, your weight distributed evenly through your feet, your face forwards. Let your arms fall by your sides, and turn your hands so your palms are facing forwards. Gently curl your fingers towards your palms. Keeping your arms completely straight, slowly raise your whole arms forwards so that they come to an angle of about 45 degrees in front of your body. The strength of the pose is created by its insistent symmetry and balance through its vertical center line. The figure fixes us with a wide-eyed stare, which reinforces this assured attitude. Hold the pose a bit longer if you wish, and then we'll move on with the description. Seen from the front, it's as if the figure is presenting her outstretched arms to us, with fists raised to the sky and approximately in line with her navel. Twisting around these arms, upper body and waist is the undulating shape of one or more snakes. The snake body is thin, about 1/3 of the width of her arm. Each arm is about the width of an adult finger. The snake is modelled so that it is raised on the surface. Starting at her hands, where she holds the snake head and tail, one or more snakes form a wavy line up her arms. They are seen on her shoulder like a wide collar, and follow the outer contour of her breasts and waist. They loop over her belly in an indistinct knot, forming what looks like a twisted low girdle. Finally, they travel up her neck and the back of her tall hat, where a snake head appears on the very top, like an ornament. Moving now into the next part of the description, how might we experience the materials and colours of this object? This replica figurine is made of plaster. Wet plaster was poured into a mould and left to harden. The resulting surface is pale and smooth and similar to a fine fired clay. It is similar to the touch experience of a painted tile and neutral in temperature. The plaster imitates the appearance of the ancient Minoan figurine, but it is not the same. The Minoan original is made of faience, a paste which is made from crushing the hard mineral quartz and then firing at high temperatures. This creates a surface with a lustrous sheen. Faience is cooler to the touch than plaster, and closer to the touch experience of mother of pearl or a polished stone. The plaster surface of this object has been painted in a limited palette of colours. They can be described in 3 tones. First, the palest tone of the base layer. This cream tint covers most of the figure, like a pale butter or light seashell. Second, an enriched colour is used on the shirt and snakes, a clear opal green and subtle yellow. Green is also used in a dotted line to indicate a beaded necklace. And third, the darkest tones, a deep bitter brown. This is used in the following areas: the tall hat and hairline beneath it, on the face, the arched eyebrows and wide eyes, each one a simple leaf shape with a clear dot at the centre. On the shirt, a raised line around its edges, including the front fastenings, where laces are tied in looped knots under the breasts. And finally, on the front of the skirt, a wide decorative band of pattern forms the border of a short curved apron. In general, the colours of this replica are in a lighter key than the Minoan original. The colours are cooler and more distinct. The surface decoration helps to draw our attention to the head and torso, whereas the wide skirt remains on the periphery of our gaze. It has paler horizontal stripes, like ruled pencil lines. This greater focus on the upper half corresponds to what we know about the original figurine in Greece. It was excavated as a fragment, with one arm missing and very little surviving below the hips. The fragments were reconstructed and given a replacement skirt and right arm. An artist's drawing from the time shows how these old and new pieces were fitted together. This plaster replica serves as a record of that reconstruction and the interpretation of archaeologists in 1903. It brings up questions about authenticity and what can be considered original, and how this affects our experience of looking. The resulting figure here is therefore an image of the snake goddess and of the multiple ideas of what or who she might be. To bring our description to a close, let's consider the object as a whole. What is the overall impact and impression of being with this figure? Her facial expression and pose seem to demand our attention and express a desire to communicate. She is small enough to hold, yet commands a powerful presence. While this figure type has become famous under the title of the snake goddess, her true identity and meaning is still being questioned, and this element of mystery might be considered a key part of the viewing experience. She is close at hand and yet always distanced from us through layers of time, reconstruction, and reproduction. She is also rarely seen alone like this, but in the company of a second, smaller figurine, which was reconstructed with 2 snakes in its raised hands. The 2 were pieced together from the same archaeological find. Seen together as a pair, the figures raise even more questions. We've come to the end of this description now. To venture further into the labyrinth of the snake goddess, please continue on to recording 3, a mindful exploration. Thank you for helping with this research project by completing the short survey. You can do this after listening to recording 3, which is the final recording. Or if you're stopping here, then please complete the survey now. Goodbye for now.